The Heisman Trophy odds. Brett McMurphy had this out yesterday. Here are the Heisman Trophy odds, Circa Sports, and this is a very in-depth list. It's probably got about 45 or so names on it. And right there at the top, Arch Manning, UT, 5-1 odds ahead of Nussmeier, Klubnik, among others. And the highest non-quarterback is Jeremiah Smith, the receiver from Ohio State.
Yeah, I actually look. The favorite usually never wins, and I'm not like trying to knock, Arch Manning here, but like he hasn't played a full season yet. That's why these Heisman odds are so weird to me. They have a lot of new there at Texas, so you not only have to assume that there's a ton of like really good talent they've gotten, which they have for sure, but that it all hits for them, which it might, but nobody does that alone with a Heisman Trophy. Look, I buy Cade Klubnik a lot. I think he's going to have a very, very good year. Look, my prediction is going to be Jeremiah Smith because I think he's going to make his freshman quarterback, Julian Sand, look really, really good because there's not many people, if any, who can guard him straight up all the time. So I mean, my favorite right now would be Jeremiah Smith. But, of course, I'm not Circa Sports. They know this better than me.
Well, you might see Smith, Manning, among others, right off the top. Sayan's in this list as far as that opening game in Columbus, Ohio, could be a launcher. Kind of launch you in. Everyone knows who they are, but you never know what that opening game could mean either.
I mean, I get why we talk about this because it's the preseason and these are the type of things that start coming out and are fun to chew on and debate. But I think we're all old and wise enough to know to not get too up in arms over this. And this is basically a list of every quarterback on a team that matters and every skill player that plays beside him. And then maybe, depending on the year, like a couple defensive guys, right, that are like superstar stud future NFL guys that are, potentially that player to emerge and get into New York as a defensive player, which we see every so often. So, I mean, Arch at the top is certainly interesting, but I don't think surprising at this point. There's not a surefire guy that you just go like, oh, well, that guy's clearly better. I think because part of the mystery about Arch Manning is we don't know how good he is. Like, he could be every bit as good as he's been advertised.
I think he's going to be very good.
He probably will be. Yeah. I also think we're going to see him for 2 years. I also don't think this is just going to be some one and done and then he's off to the NFL. So I think if you're hoping that he's like some flash in the pan as far as a starter, I got bad news for you. I think you better settle in and get used to him for at least 2 seasons because he has no, in my mind, motivation outside of if they go win a national title this year, then you're like, okay, well, now what do I do? And he wins the Heisman and they like do everything imaginable. That'd be one thing. I don't think that'll be the case, but yeah, I'm glad we get to see him. I'm glad that we get to see him and see what all the hype is about. And I know we got to see him to some extent last year. But I mean, this is going to be a week in and week out thing. So I'm excited about that. And I think he does bring probably a lot of money to those casinos who do believe he'll be the guy, or a lot of people who believe he is all hype and not nearly to what he's been touted to be. So, yeah, I'd imagine he's creating a lot of action one way or the other. And then, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's all the top quarterbacks there, Nussmeier, Klubnik, Aller, as you'd expect, and then your skill guys, Smith. So there's a lot of fun names on here, but I don't think that there's just the guy that you go, wow, that's just going to be impossible for anybody to outpace this guy if he plays well. There's a lot of interesting, like Lenore Sellers could very well win the damn Heisman Trophy. DJ Lagway could win the Heisman Trophy. Nussmeier could win it. Klubnik. I mean, I don't know about all these guys, but yeah, certainly at that top, there's a lot of intriguing names, and it kind of feels fresh as well.
How many of the names? I'm sorry, go ahead.
And there's somebody randomly in the middle to the bottom of that list who will shoot up.
Probably,
like
yeah.
There's somebody who's going to be there that's going to have a huge year.
Well, like Avery Johnson's 50-1, about 2/3 down that list. If in fact they are good, really good, but K-State's going to have almost a one loss at the most season. How many players on that list have either played just a little bit or have not played at all? How about Underwood from Michigan right there at about number 12 or so, 13 on that list? A lot of players, of course, who have transferred. Has Tyler Simpson played much?
No, Ty Simpson.
Ty Simpson, has he played very much?
Yeah, his odds are ahead of Sam Levitt's, which are the same as Austin Simmons. And Sam Levitt's played an entire season. Dante Moore at Oregon is 20-1, just like Julian saying is. They're ahead of Carson Beck, this is his third full year as a starting quarterback in college football. Now, I know a lot of that has to do with the team and the style of quarterback they are, but, look, Joey Aguilar at Tennessee is getting 55-1, and that's ahead of, Marcel Reed, who played a whole season in the SEC.
Golf Partner, the world's largest golf store network, offers more purchasing opportunities than anywhere else. With a dominant market share and a wider selection of quality secondhand golf clubs than our competitors, we make it easy for you to enjoy the game with affordable, top-quality equipment. Join us at golfpartnerusa.com and discover why we're the trusted choice for golf lovers worldwide. That's GOLFPARTNERUSA.com. Golf Partner.
Last year, or Dylan Raiola, who again played a whole year at that level, and this is Joey Aguilar's first season at this level of the SEC, coming in from App State.
I'm pissed off. Haynes King is at the very bottom at 100-1. Yeah. He's my Heisman candidate. Georgia Tech quarterback. Just love the guy. Craig, who is surprisingly among the top 8 to 12? Anyone in there that you kind of like? Sellers, of course, South Carolina's getting a lot of love, had the great ending last year, great surge at the end, fantastic player. Anybody in particular kind of catch your attention?
I mean, not in that top group because, again, that's just all the top names. I mean, that's all the top QB or top guys at the top schools, like a Julian saying there at Ohio State. So, no, not really. I mean, I think if you're putting together like the top 20 best players list, that's pretty much all the offensive guys. And so, yeah, or the most intriguing names, they're all on there. I do think Sam Leavitt's got some pretty good value because I think to have him with an Austin Simmons or even Stockton there at Georgia, like those could be fine players. But I just think Sam Leavitt's done a bit more at this point, even compared to a Ty Simpson. So I might have him a shade higher, more in line with a Carson Beck, but I'm also not big into the whole gambling thing to begin with. So I don't know how much we're splitting hairs at 25-1 compared to 30-1. I don't know how big that discrepancy really is, but I'd certainly have Sam Leavitt off the run he just had, maybe a bit closer to the top 10 or inside of the top 10. And then beyond that, I'm more or less, I really look at like who's compared to who, but I'm just kind of looking at some of those names in the Big 12, like a Devin Dampier being on this list is interesting. And certainly a lot's expected of him. Avery Johnson, I do feel like you could be led to believe that he's perhaps a little bit low and has a tremendous opportunity to explode and really rise up these rankings. Jackson Arnold at Auburn, They're going to be right down the road in week number 1, and I have no idea what to. I know what to think about Cam Coleman. Like I know what to think about him, but I don't have any earthly idea of what to think about Jackson Arnold at this point. So I'm really interested, and I feel like that's like his recruiting ranking holding up his Heisman. And also the fact, okay, now he's in the SEC, he's got Hugh Freeze and this and that, but I don't know what to make of him.
He was in the
whatsoever.
SEC a year ago, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fair. I'm still kind of putting that together in my brain that Oklahoma's in the SEC. But, yeah, you're right that he was. But I think that still being there is also maybe what gives you a little bit weight is if you do pan out, then you're going to rise much faster than if you panned out in probably most of the other conferences. So, I'm kind of just interested looking over the names. I don't have any big hot takes on it, though, besides what I've already said.
I will tell you who I do think – if it clicks because of where he is in the history there with the Heisman Trophy. If John Mateer is what he was at Wazoo at Oklahoma, then he will at least be in New York because he's a dual threat guy.
Okay.
It's Oklahoma.
Okay.
If he is that good at Oklahoma, it means they've won a crap ton of games.
That means they have to win 10 plus.
Yeah. So if he is what he was at Wazoo at Oklahoma, they'll be contending for the SEC, and he'll be in New York.
I know we've gone over the – no, we have not done the SEC. We have Arkansas today, Alabama yesterday. Is Oklahoma's schedule as difficult as it was a year ago?
It's the same schedule. Yeah. It's just flipped.
Okay.
So, it's still pretty difficult on paper. I think you'd have to do more than he did at Wazoo, Paul, just simply because they lost several games. But especially down the stretch, it got rocky there for them. And I know that there's a segment of Wazoo fans that feel like he was like maybe checked out towards the end of the year. I know that's just fans rationalizing with losses and stuff, but that feel like maybe he started to wonder about the portal, more so than the season or something. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just fans talking. He's very talented, though, and I know what you're getting at. But, yeah, they would have to be better record-wise for sure, and he would have to win no less than 10 games, which is going to be a really tall task for them, considering they barely made bowl eligibility a year ago. But they didn't have John Mateer at quarterback. They had a whole mess of quarterback play. They had no wide receivers to speak of the entire season. They've upgraded at running back. They're better and healthier and more rounded out at wide receiver. They should be better on the offensive line. I mean, everything at Oklahoma should be better to some degree this year. That wasn't good enough last year. And if all that is true and he's as good as he was at his best last year, then yeah, he's a fun guy to watch, and I think he'll make a lot of waves, and people will be talking about him quite a bit. So he's a legit candidate, especially at a school like Oklahoma. But we'll see.
Well, of
Tough
the schools, of the names of the players, and a lot of them attached to schools that people expect to compete. Oklahoma, not sure yet, as Craig was just and Paul were talking about, but up there at 30-1, nobody else among the top 8 to 12 or so are on teams that didn't. Oh, Michigan, Underwood, they weren't very good for their standard, obviously coming off the national championship. What was Florida's final record? Were they 7-6, or what was their final record?
They were 8-5.
Okay, so there we are with Lagway, who was phenomenal when we saw that. So Sam Levitt's got a whiteboard, right? Garrett, his whiteboard, he's 14th. There are 12 quarterbacks that will be on his whiteboard, right in front of him.
Correct.
Jeremiah Smith, the receiver from Ohio State, the only non-quarterback in the top 15, or actually in the top, my goodness, maybe 20 or so. Love, the running back from Notre Dame, is one of the non-quarterbacks there too.
Yeah, Jeremiah Love. Yeah, he's of course, he is going to be. I think he's one of those guys who's in the middle. Who, if they're as good as everybody thinks they're going to be, especially with that offensive line that they have and how good he was a year ago, and a young quarterback in CJ Carr, I mean, he's going to have 1,500 yards before you say jackrabbit. So he'll have a ton of touchdowns. So I would expect to see him in the race until right at the end of the year if the projections on their season are correct.
Yeah, and then I think with Sam Levitt, I mean, I don't want to overplay how good he is, because I almost feel like we're going too far the other way. Like he's like the next coming and like the next number 1 overall draft pick, and maybe he is, but I do think that it wasn't just like he was like stealing the show last year all the time. So I still worry about the loss of Scadaboo and just how all that looks. And I understand they got Udo and they've filled that role in, but I mean, Sam Levitt's very good, but I almost feel like we're getting dangerously close to like overhyping him, if that makes sense. At the same time, if I was him and I'm looking at those guys in front of me, I'm making my little list that apparently he makes. He's got a valid bitch about a few of these guys who haven't done anything yet, that he's proven that he's done more. I mean, Ty Simpson for starters, Bryce Underwood. Dante Moore was a name I was going to bring up that I didn't see the first time around, but a guy who's played a little bit but not a ton, and so I don't know why you justify having him necessarily above it. But again, this is this isn't meant to be taken deadly seriously, but if I'm Sam Levitt, I'm going, well, I definitely should be above Ty Simpson right now, and I should be above Bryce Underwood right now, and I should be above probably Julian Sayin based on experience, and Dante Moore. Now, I wouldn't have him ahead of necessarily any of these other guys, but yeah, you could have a little bit of complaint about being higher.
I mean, if you're going to say like Arch, Nuss, Cade Klubnik, and
as far as proven, he's proven more than Arch technically as well, but I just know like that's kind of a different beast.
Like that one you have to maybe put in its own like category of I don't like this guy if you're Sam Levitt. But the only guys I would put him in there with Lagway and Sellers when it comes to this is a guy who's produced. This is a guy who won his conference last year, and maybe it is because there's no Scadaboo that he's further down the list. But I mean, he still has Jordan Tyson, to throw the ball to.
Yeah, he does.
And that's a guy who's also going to be.
And they got the running back from Army to try to help him make people, at least know he's there. Obviously, Scadaboo, as we've talked about, was the shoot it in your veins type player.
Yeah, he's just – Scadaboo's unique. I recorded the top fives for for finishing out that Big 12 series, and Arizona was today, and they're having to bring in 2 wide receivers essentially to replace the production of Tedero McMillan. Kanye Udo will be the first guy, but I think given all the stuff that Scadaboo did, that's going to be created in different facets of the offense. which probably means more stats for Sam Levitt.
With Arch Manning, one of the things that not lost by any means is the fact that, and some of these other guys, but he can be a dual threat. He's not going to be Lamar Jackson. Not saying he's going to do that, but he can be a dual threat. We've seen him. I mean, he's a lot better athlete than his brothers or his uncles were, and his father. He is. That's one of the things when he committed and was being recruited. I was like, man, I don't. What kind of he's a really good runner with the football as well. Plus, he's got Sarkisian, who's brilliant at play calling, and even with the loss of a lot of players, if they can get through the early part of that schedule. Man, he could be set up for one heck of a good year. We saw Nussmeier. He was fantastic in that bowl game against Baylor. LSU's defense wasn't very good either, neither was Baylor, but that was Nussmeier was perhaps the difference. Garrett, would you agree in that game? No, I don't know, because Sawyer was good.
No, Sawyer was cold.
When Bryson Washington went out, that did change the complexion of that game a little bit because he was running it free throughout most of that game.
No, he is. My only hang up with Nussmeier would be that you're replacing 3 crucial offensive linemen, 2 All-Americans, and then your center and Garrett Dellinger. So, and he's not very mobile. So if they can't protect him up front, then I think that's going to kind of hinder them. They have all the playmakers in the world at every skill position that you could ask for, but that right there is the one hiccup with me with Nussmeier and his production this season.
All right, so there's the list. It's lengthy. It's deep. Anyone else want to add to that before we move on? We'll have Kenrich Williams from Oklahoma City, the world champion Thunder here in the next 10 minutes or so.
No, I think we spent more than enough time on a preseason odds poll, but it's fun to see all the names and to see kind of how it's lined up and who the expected superstars are and just kind of how they're being viewed. In terms of odds and all that. It's always I guess part of the tradition of just the summertime, and Phil Steele drops one week and then you got Heisman odds one week, you got conference title odds, and we'll have all these different things that start to pour out, especially as media days get rolling. So that's exciting to see these kind of drop when it matters and not so much like you see them in March and you're like, okay, because it's March. So cool, but it's something to nibble on. Now it's like actually something to chew on because we're getting close to this actually being a real race that we're going to be monitoring.